if you improve matters in Africa, Kenya becomes a beneficiary. One example I want to give is intra-African trade. Intra-African trade currently stands at only 15%. Africa trades very little with itself. Inter-European trade stands at 70%. Intra-Asian trade is now getting towards 60%. Even South America stands at about 30%. But Africa does not trade with itself for reasons, some of which are actually solvable, or problems solvable. You see, there are non-tariff barriers which have been introduced by some African countries, which makes it very difficult for goods to move from one African country to another African country. Secondly, there is infrastructure challenges that makes it very difficult for Africa to trade with itself. You know, Africa Continental Free Trade Area Agreement is now 2 years old, but still very little progress has been made, mainly because of these two major barriers. As the High Representative on infrastructure, I realized the challenges. Like you've been talking about intra-African highways, the Cape to Cairo, the Dakar to Djibouti, Dakar, Lagos, Lagos, Mombasa, and so on and so forth. We've been talking about the continental high-speed railway network, one Beira to Walvis Bay, one the old Benguela line, Lobito to Lubumbashi. The other one is the high-speed railway along the coast from Lagos to Cairo. The other one is our LAPSET, the Lamu Port, South Sudan, Ethiopia Transport Corridor, which as a representative of the AU on infrastructure, we actually extended from Juba through Bangui in Central African Republic to the Port of Cameroon to create a land bridge that links the Atlantic Ocean to the Indian Ocean and opening up the interior of the continent, which are landlocked for trade. See, for example, Kenya grows tea. How does Kenya export its tea to Central African Republic? Between Kenya and Central African Republic, there's only South Sudan. South Sudan is the only country between Kenya and Central African Republic. But how do you take the tea there? There's no infrastructure. You have to find a ship that will go around the Cape, along the western coast, to the Cameroonian port of Douala, and then by road to Bangui. The French are there ahead of you. That's why they drink in Bangui Kenyan tea, christened as English breakfast tea. But with an upset, we can be able to take our goods there. But this infrastructure cannot be developed country by country. You need to have a mechanism at the center that is coordinating funding for the infrastructure. If you want to do the LAPSET, Kenya can only do its part up to the border with South Sudan. Then South Sudan needs to take it from there to the border with Central African Republic. Central African Republic takes it to Cameroon and to reach there. But you need a center to be able to coordinate funding, to mobilize funding for this infrastructure development, which are cutting across the continent. That is why those things have not been done.